Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 4 of the 2022 Nations Cup Stage 1, taking place at Sardegna A with a Suzuki VGT. So first, make sure you have sports soft tires since those are the only tire compounds we're using. This is a 10-lap race where the fuel is a ×1 and tire wear is a ×4. So this is a straightforward zero-stop race as there's no tire requirement and no mandatory pit stops. BOP is on and tuning is disabled, so no, you cannot tune your car. And be aware that this race has a grid start. And one last thing, Nations Cup races are now taking place on Fridays and Manufacturer Cup races are taking place on Saturdays. But anyways, let's go on over to the lap guide as this car is a bit of a weird one to drive. Bring us up towards the right side of the track. Brake in between the 150 and the 100 meter points. So right around here, brake as much as you can. Bring yourself down to 4th gear. And once you hit the apex, you want to get pretty aggressive on the throttle. These next two turns can be taken flat out, but bring yourself towards the right side of the track and you're braking before the 50 meter board. So you're going to want to shift down right here just as you start to brake. Shift down again as it's starting to turn in and ease off of the brakes so the car can turn in a bit more. A little bit of throttle input, then quick burst of braking. Go down to 3rd gear so the car will start to slide around this turn. Go back up to 4th gear and carefully get on the throttle. Now bring yourself towards the right side of the track and now you're braking just after the 50 meter board. So just after you pass it, you want to brake hard for a very short moment. Ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, go down to 4th gear and carefully transition over from the braking to the throttle. You want to be smooth on the throttle because if you are too impatient on the throttle, the rear of the car will start to whip around. Now you're going to want to try to go through this as smoothly as possible, turning in as little as possible. Bring yourself towards the right and brake at the 125 meter points, so right in between the 150 and the 100 meter boards. Brake hard for a short while. Do a little bit of trail braking, going down to 3rd gear and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Now for this final chicane, this is where it gets really tricky. This right turn, take it flat out and you want to look for the end of the curb on the right as you want to brake just as it ends. 50% braking power, and when you shift down to 5th gear, your car will rotate a lot more and you need to be careful on the throttle. And that part right there, when you shift down, that's when the car will start to slide a bit. Now I'm going to show a clip from earlier because this is where I did it a heck of a lot better. So I actually dipped into the grass on the right to set up a bit better for this turn. Shift down and the car is starting to slide around a little bit and just trying to be really careful on the throttle. Yeah, that turn or that chicane is a little difficult because the car can sometimes be a little inconsistent there. But I just wanted to show that just a better approach that I took earlier in this session. But anyways, your final braking point just before the 100 meter board, so brake as much as you can. Go down to 3rd gear, easing off of the brakes and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Also for this little kink, you can take it flat out, but you need to get the timing right for your turn in, which is just before you pass this sign on the left. So turn in, try to take it flat out, and you are good to go. If you turn in a little late, you want to lift off of the throttle so you don't end up hitting the wall. But anyways, that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. Alright, here we go. So we're taking a look at a 10-lap race at Sardegna A with the Suzuki VGT. Don't forget, this is a great start, so make sure you have traction control at 1 for the very start of the race, and shortly after the race starts or after you hopefully survive turn 1, you can then move the traction control back down to 0 or whatever value you normally have it set to. So this is a zero stop race as the fuel multiplier is at ×1, so fuel is not an issue. Tire wear is at ×4 on the sports soft tires, so you will get some tire wear, but it is not enough to need to worry about getting a tire change. So straightforward sprint race, but you want to try to have a really good idea about how to navigate through the first chicane we just went through and this left turn that we're just about to go through, as I think those turns and the final chicane are the most critical turns in trying to get a really good lap time, and you just want to try not to mess up on those turns, because even just a little mistake can cost you a lot of time in this car. So for example, if you start to even just slide just a little too much in the first chicane, congratulations, you just lost 6/10. Now, okay, I might be exaggerating a little too much there, but you really do notice how much time you lose if you have the car slide around just a little too much, or if you're not carrying enough momentum into these turns. And yeah, this final chicane is such a pain to get right. You can see that I just completely missed the apex, and that one's going to take a while to get used to and to try to get a really good idea of how to get around it without losing too much momentum. The main thing here is to try to keep as much momentum as possible and to only slide around when it's absolutely needed. So I'm thinking about the first chicane where the downshifts will help the car rotate a bit more, kind of get into a teeny tiny little slide, but just enough to maintain the momentum. The other thing is that this car has a hybrid system in which you're probably going to think, oh, I need to do a bunch of battery management, and I want to say not really, because the recharge rate is pretty slow, so you're using a lot more of the hybrid than what you're getting back through braking or lifting off of the throttle, and eventually you will run out. So around laps 5 to 6, that's when the hybrid runs out. So for example, coming out of this turn, I'm getting actually just a little bit of hybrid because I was already out of it, but when you brake for these turns, you end up having just enough to be able to get a kind of decent power out of the turns. And the other thing is that even when I was this low on the hybrid, I didn't really notice myself losing that much time. So I don't think battery management is going to be a huge priority for this race. It's not like the LMP ones in the last race where you had to do a bit of battery management. And I'm just going to finish this lap. So this was the lap where I ran out of the hybrid batteries, and just to show that I wasn't really losing too much time. So I was getting average of 152s, and in this lap I was still getting 152s. So yeah, not too much time that you're losing once you run out of the hybrid. But at the end of the race, still getting 152s. There is a bit of tire wear, but it's not enough to need a pit stop for a tire change. But this is going to be an 18 to 19 minute race, 0 stop race in the Suzuki VGT. But anyways, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.